Hell yeah, fellas. Ladies and gentlemen.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Welcome to Inside the Actors Studio. I'm Stefan Urkel with Meta World Peace and Billy Howardell from A Perfect Circle. How are you guys doing today? Just kidding. It's Whatchu Spinnin episode 79. That's Jake, that's Matt, and I'm Dorian. How are we doing today, folks?
Fantastically swell.
Fantastically swell. Love it. Matt?
That's a great answer. I'm feeling about the same. Positive vibes. Still sunny.
Still sunny. One of the last. Enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, we got some exciting things going on in the next few weeks, and some good albums to talk about today.
If you see me cry at the Billy Wood show, no, you didn't. Okay.
No, you didn't.
I was telling Matt, I was like, a day and a week and a year like makes me cry every other time I hear that song, and I'm like, yeah. So if that happens, no, it didn't.
We will get a picture. We will. Even if he's got something covering his face, we're gonna get a picture.
I've seen pictures that people take of him and like they'll like put a thumbs up in front of his face or like a high five in front of his face.
We should figure out something clever to do.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
Like one of his albums.
Bah, bah, bah. Especially if we're buying one at the show. But hell yeah, Billy Woods on Wednesday, 5-year anniversary for Hiding Places. That'll be sick. Gonna romp around in Portland, maybe do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and we'll actually after that we have Peter Cat. So next episode will be a shit ton of concert coverage, and I'm probably gonna be going to Goose, so triple concert coverage. Goose the night before Billy Woods. That's
very cool.
Be a nightmare. But yeah, so next episode we'll have a lot of concert coverage, but we're all looking forward to that. Until then, we've got questions to go over, and then our regularly scheduled programming. So we'll start off. Matt curated these questions, and I figured, why not? It's a very hip-hop heavy episode. We'll go with hip-hop heavy questions. To start it off, top 3 hip-hop lyricists. Matt, do you want to start off on this one?
Yeah, I can start off on that one.
Cool.
For me, Tupac, you just growing up in high school, he always kind of reflected, not that I really understood a lot of what he was saying, but like his flow was really impactful. And then Billy Woods, of course. He's our shining star. And then, of course, I like Saul Williams just for his abstract songwriting and just a different approach to hip-hop. You know, when mid-2000s, when a lot of things were uncertain, he kind of flipped it on its edge and I think inspired a lot of other people. And I don't know. Those are my 3.
Hell yeah.
Saul is so underrated.
Right. I was thinking, I was like, damn. I was like, man, Saul is like right up there for me too. Like definitely top 5, I would say. But for me personally, I'm going to go the opposite side of the country for Tupac. I'm going to go Notorious B.I.G. Just, yeah, man. The rhyme and like the rhyme scheme that he did and the way that he could just flow and everything. And then, yeah, his lyricism. I don't know shit about selling crack, but his music makes me feel like a fucking scholar.
Like you've been doing it for 5 years.
Yeah.
You like got some time in the game.
Yeah, like I'm a seasoned vet. And then MF Doom. I mean, I've only spoken highly of him on this show, so go back to any time that he's been mentioned for my support in that. He's easily my favorite. And then my third one. I mean, shit, man. I got to go B-dubs too. I mean, Billy Woods, like. Him.
Whoa, a lot of love.
Yeah.
A lot of love for Billy Woods.
Yeah.
I like it.
I know. I can't think, because I've been going back into like this album and Hiding Places, you know, like kind of gearing up for the show. And I'm just like, yeah, it might be one of those things that like that the answer could be different if you asked me like 3 weeks from now. At least it might shift around, but I think that's my solid top 3 for that.
Nice.
There's so much discovery with Billy Woods every time you listen to him.
Right.
So much. I like this question a lot because I get your guys' perspectives of it. I'm going Black Thought. You gotta.
Hey.
If we're talking about lyricists, Black Thought is nuts. Black Thought in any feature in any song. That album that he did with Danger Mouse recently, Codes, I think it was. That album's really good. Elzai, any also feature I hear from Elzai, he just like completely tears up the track. Like anyone that he's partnered with or that he's, you know, collaborating with, it's almost like a competition. Like he's always like trying to be on top. And his rhyme scheme, I mean, it speaks for itself. And then Chuck Strangers. I've been really liking Chuck Strangers. as a rapper. He's a really good producer, but his rapping ability is really good.
Excellent.
Really good.
Honorable mention, Mos Def, even limited discography.
yeah.
I mean, those first 2 albums are solid.
Yeah. Honorable mention for me, Five Dog for sure.
Cool. I was thinking somebody,
Yeah.
Tribe's got to be thrown in there.
I realize like I have just completely moved. Like I haven't listened to a track.
I know,
it's for fucking ever.
Yeah.
And I'm like, damn, that was like my whole steez back in the day, dude. Like when I was like 20 years old, that's all I would listen to.
brother.
Yeah.
What is your opinion on the state of music today? And we could
sit here and have a whole podcast about that.
I almost
question,
did a video myself talking about this because I could go on and on and on because there's things that I love about it and there's things that I hate about it. But overall, I really like where it's at. New music that's coming out is really good. You know, whether it's hip hop and stuff, you know, there's just like, if you, and this is what I mean, you have to dig a little deeper to find what the good stuff that's coming out right now. Like Fly or Die, you know, that's incredible jazz music that was coming out. You know, Beach House, you know, really experimental stuff that's coming out. Hermanos, you know, all of these groups that we mentioned, you know, Billy Woods and all of that, and you know the different EDM artists that we've talked about, you know, whether it's Fred again, Over Mono, Rez, you know, there's such good stuff coming out. You just have to look for it, and it's not just, I mean, we covered a country music album that came out in the past like 7 years. Like country music is fucking good again. And I think a lot more people are really getting into music now. I see a lot more people on my social media feeds being like over the top passionate, like over like selling albums. You know, they're like Joe Schmo, fucking art. Like Adriel was hyping up that Beyonce country album like a motherfucker on Facebook, and I was like, it was like well thought out. I was like, damn, I didn't know she thought about music like that. You know?
Yeah.
So I think it's in a really good spot. I think there's some things that, you know, like I don't know, Ticketmaster and, you know, festivals and all of this stuff. There's like a lot of shady stuff with it, but I think as an art form, I think music is insane, is like in a really good spot right now.
Yeah. I mean, there's piggybacking off of that, like there's so much money to be made in the music industry.
Oh, yeah.
But that's like, if we look past that, if we look under the rug, like just above the surface level, sure, like you might not like what you're hearing on the radio, but just like distance yourself from mainstream and just like look a little deeper, and you'll discover literally so much more that you like, so much more that's out there. If you like, you know, EDM, just stray away from, you know, the bigger names and just go a little bit deeper. You'll find way more stuff. Same thing with any genre, anything. There's always going to be, you know, that like niche that you'll like, and if you really dig into it a little bit more, there's so much more to discover. And then with that, you know, it comes a lot more like passion, a lot more smaller groups, a lot more smaller artists that they're really, you know, just honing in on their craft instead of just trying to, you know, do it for the money or do it for the fame. Like they're actually passionate of what they're doing. So yeah, the music, like on the superficial level, like the radio is what it's always going to be, but you know, the mainstay where like the actual talent is and the actual lyricism and passion, you know, it's always going to be there.
Yeah. So. And I'll piggyback off of you because I'm going to say the same thing about radio play. And if you're not selling, nobody's buying, and apparently you're no good. But that's not true. Based on a lot of the people we listen to, these are huge artists that inspire a lot of different people that are even in that mainstream that are selling millions of records and doing all that stuff. And I think the state of music's in a decent place. There's a lot of focus on pop music, always has been.
Yeah.
But like you guys are saying, in order to get around that, you have to go outside and dive into those rabbit holes. Find a genre you like and find a subgenre of that, and then you'll find a new artist you love, and you'll just rediscover music in a sense if you do that. So the state of music is what it is. The radio is always going to be there. I wish there was more focus on the underground scenes, whether it's underground metal, country, hip hop, you know, all those different genres. There's a lot of people that we talk about that other people have never heard, and I love that. You brought up Jamie Branch. That's a great example. You know,
thank you.
Like I was in the moment, could not remember the fucking name. So yeah, I think it is what it is. It's always going to be like that. The radio is what it is. I'm just glad that we're able to talk about music and get other artists recognized out there that should be talked about.
Like these smaller artists sell out shows for a reason. Like people go to these shows for a reason. They listen to their music for a reason. Sure, maybe they don't have a billion streams, but like people still listen. Their fans listen, and then with that, more people get introduced. We shift the tides. We can probably get them a little bit more popularity, but in general, that's where it's at, is like not so much the big name artists, because it might be they're just chasing fame or money or whatever, but the ones that are actually parallel to that and like their passion, that's what real music's where it's at.
Yeah.
And Floater still sells out. So
Exactly.
there you go.
And my last piece that I'll say is, I think we'd be remiss without like recognizing, while maybe like Spotify and Apple Music and like all of these streaming platforms like don't pay the artist very well, for the fan, if you utilize them properly, they're such a fucking good tool for getting into music. I mean, think about it. Like Matt, for example, you weren't into jazz, and and you brought up an amazing jazz adjacent album last episode, and it's like, thanks to stumbling upon random shit on Spotify. And same thing for me with like getting into Aphex Twin and getting more into Deftones and stuff like that. It's if you use Spotify properly. I can't speak for Apple Music. I haven't used it in almost a decade, but Spotify like really sets people up to like branch out, and like that's the thing that I really like about it. And I have heard that they pay the artist shit, but you kind of you make a deal with the devil at some point in your career. So and so I think that's huge for the music industry right now and for music fans, and that's why we're seeing such an uptick in people just being like, oh yeah, like Creed's doing a nationwide tour, and like they didn't play music forever, and like people, like now bands are getting elevated and doing arena tours thanks to songs blowing up on fucking TikTok and then Spotify.
That's true.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, you got to recognize the devil in the room, but fucking shout out to him, man. Like that's been huge for me, at least, being like being able to go on like a crash course on the Grateful Dead in a week and be like, yeah, I'm a fucking Deadhead now. Like that's incredible. The fact that that's even possible. So
I mean, that's how you discover more artists, is some way there has to be something that connects everything, and streaming services do. Like, because the old times of handing out CDs to someone or doing that, like it's still a thing, but it's not as prevalent as streaming. So yeah, you kind of have to be out there to be recognized.
Hell yeah. Shall we move?
Let's jump in.
On to the third one.
Let's start it off, boys.
Third one. At what age in your life? Probably should have done this one second. But at what age in your life did you start listening to hip hop? I mean, I was having this conversation with somebody recently. California Love and Big Papa were like mainstays at like every barbecue I was at, I feel like. But like getting into it myself, 2012, so what, I was like 14, 15 years old.
Okay.
And like it was when Kendrick Lamar was getting big, and so it was kind of like Lil Wayne and stuff, and then so going into that, and then that just up until I was like 18, like every couple of years I would get in I would discover a new rap artist. But I was still such a metalhead, but yeah, I'd say about 14, 15, but then when it really, like I went on I've mentioned it a lot of times on here, but when I was like 19, I fell completely off the deep end, and like that was all I was listening to for almost 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, no, same. Since I was young, like I've been listening to hip hop. I'd have like older cousins just playing Tupac, playing Ice Cube, Bone Thugs, and not until like I got a little bit older, maybe like middle school, because I used to not like hip hop, because I was like, all the hip hop's the same, it's lame. All I like is EDM and dubstep, because that was going on at the time.
I was also a shithead. Don't worry.
Yeah, but then I was like, okay, like. I kind of got reintroduced like East Coast hip hop again, and with like the Pro Era movement and Joey Badass and Flatbush Zombies and all these other artists like ASAP, made me really fall back into love with hip hop, with rediscovering hip hop in a way. But yeah, it's always kind of been a mainstay in one form or another. It's been there.
Yeah, my direct quote was Big Papa, California Love, and the smell of stale Corona were like mainstays in like my childhood summers.
Nice. I started listening to hip hop when I was in like 4th or 5th grade with NWA's album that came out straight out of Compton, but it was the edited version. I probably told the story before,
Maybe?
but
don't
I
think
had
so.
the edited tape, and me and my friend would listen to it, and we met some people that were a few years older than us, and they're like, have you not heard the original? We're like, no. So when we did, we were just like completely blown. It was just so much different.
Oh, yeah.
And so that kind of got me introduced into that. And then throughout high school, Too Short, album number 10.
Yes.
His album number 10
Nice.
is legit, and that kind of put me back onto the Tupac and the B.I.G. and the East Coast, West Coast thing. Liquid Swords, all those people just kind of came into... That was high school for me. Yeah.
Hell yeah! I almost went home with a copy of Liquid Swords yesterday instead of.
Ooh.
I bought this Aphex Twin RDJ, and then I bought Dots and Loops by Stereolab.
Ooh,
actually.
nice. I went up to Portland and I picked up a couple records too.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. I said on the last episode, I was like, I'm waiting until we go to Portland, but I was like, you know what? Kind of had a weird. I was like, I've had
I'm
a
waiting. I
tough
haven't
day
bought
at work.
vinyl in forever.
And sometimes like there's certain things like kind of why I'm getting into like the collecting of the Deftones records is because it's like if they're like $23, I mean, who am I?
Oh my god.
But anyway, that was our question segment for episode 79 of Whatchu Spinnin. I'm Dorian, that's Matt, and that's Jake. We will be right back to cover the first album of the day. Peace out. Wonderful. Knowing my luck. Hell yeah, I am super stoked to talk about all of these albums today.
Oh my god.
We got some good ones to get to, and we're starting off with a fucking banger. It's hanging on the wall in between me and Jake. What you got for us today, my man?
Yeah, so we've brought up this artist not directly, but just through like features and production credits. But it's J Dilla Donuts. Came out in 2006, I believe. His like second album, Welcome to Detroit, was his first one. But this is just like a beat tape. It's just like an instrumental. Probably regarded as one of the best beat tapes in hip hop. Probably you could say.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
There's a couple out there, but this one, there's just so much like storytelling and so much background to it. It's kind of crazy. Shout out Dorian for getting me the 33 and a third or a half or whatever. Mm-hmm. That book of it, I read it. A lot of background and like storytelling from friends of his, from family members of his. I actually just went to the bookstore the other day and tried looking for Dilla Time because I was like really intrigued. So much just so much lore behind it. It's kind of crazy, but yeah, J Dilla has kind of been epitomized in hip hop as like a mainstay in beat making and production, and I feel like it was about time that we brought up a full project from his. So what did you guys get away, or what did you guys take away from this album?
I was trying to double check my facts. Is there 31 songs on here?
Yeah, I think it's quite a bit, but it's
That was
like it's
It's like the first
insane.
time
it's
I've
like
had to make
40
a
minutes.
I was like
I had to
31?
split the subsection in half at the bottom, so that way I could finish the taking
Because
notes.
it goes so fast. It's 43 minutes, and it's all different. And there's so much that's going on. And the sampling's cool. The throwback vibes are good from some of the artists that he used, maybe back from the 60s or the 70s. But he's got everything going on. And I've only heard him from Slum Village, so I don't really know much about him. But this was a great introduction. Like we all just said, this is probably one of the best mixtapes out there. And you can hear it. You know, it goes quick. It doesn't sound like 31 songs because it goes so fast. And they're all different. Lightworks, so catchy. That's the banger on the album. Other than that, there's so many other good ones too. But this is a fun album.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just it's so hard to like put words to it, like just how perfect it is and everything, and how much it just summed up the underground. Whether it was like the late 90s, like from the late 90s up until what was it, 2006 when this came out. And it's really a capper on what was such a prolific career that almost nobody knew about at the time. And, you know, everybody loved him. Like Dave Chappelle uses his stuff still to this day in his comedy specials, you know, whatever. Yeah. Peanut Butter Wolf was like his biggest fan, which is huge. You know, Stone's Throw is like the label in the underground still. And, you know, coming out 3 days before he passed away, 3 days before he passed away, which was like, but it was released on his birthday. Mm-hmm. He died 3 days later. Mm-hmm. Insane. It was mainly finished in the hospital / hotel room that they were staying at, like near there. Like he would wake up, like his mom had to like lift him out of bed to the instruments, and he would like wake up in the middle of the night, be like, "Mom, like help me out." So at like 2-3 in the morning, he's just getting out of bed and working on this because it wasn't like a demand from a record label or anything. He was just doing it for the fucking love of the game.
Yeah.
And you can really just, the fact that he wrote it when he was in, and like he made it when he was at such a insanely difficult time in his life, literally the end of his life. And it has so much polish, and it's a ballsy fucking album. It's it's like a tough album to wrap your head around at times, but it's incredible. And like everybody who I've shown this to, they're like, Jesus Christ, man, like this is, because I kind of tell them a little bit of the backstory, and they're like, that's fucking insane. And even my non-hip hop, like super into hip hop friends, find an appreciation for this album. So shout out Jay Dilla, man.
There's so many like little one-liners that you can just repeat off all the songs on here. I found myself doing that all week, just being like, oh yeah, that's from that album.
Yeah. Dilla, man, he was all over the place at this point. Like, so many people wanted to work with him, like from him working with Erykah Badu, with Common, Farside, like all these big groups, big names. Like he didn't have anything individualized himself besides his like debut. So for this being like a last, you know, one last ride, one last hoorah, and he had been making it for a while now, and like he had given out the beat tapes to Madlib and Peanut Butter Wolf, and they like were obsessed with it. They were like, you need to release it right now, but it wasn't completed and it was too short. So like that's why he was working on it. And through all of this, like in this point of his life, he had lupus and TTP. It's like a disease that he had that's like uncurable. So it was really rough for him because, like you said, he had to be hospitalized for a majority of the last part of his life. And he was just like finishing the album in the hospital. And throughout this whole time, you know, he had like the support of his mother, Ma Dukes. She has a crazy long segment in the book, and it's a tearjerker, man. Like you're hearing this, you're reading this, and like just seeing the dedication off of this man, like for the love that he had in his craft and what he was doing. Like he was a workaholic, dude. Like he would go to shows. Like he toured in Europe in a wheelchair.
That's insane.
Like he toured in a wheelchair, and this whole time he was, you know, making music, trying to finish the album. And yeah, there's just so much that goes into it, that all the songs on the albums, they have like such higher, more meaning to them. Like Don't Cry, you hear that and you know, you get goosebumps. Like, you know who that's for. Like, you know, that's for him, that's for his loved ones. Stop, also kind of the samples on there, it's kind of, you know, real ties back to his situation, that what's going on. The donut, the last donut of the night,
I was gonna say.
also, like, you know, that it's just so much detail that he put into this. I feel like it was so meaningful, and he did everything like in such detail, and it was all with a purpose.
Yeah, knowing that backstory now, man, Jesus, that's heartfelt, and you can definitely feel it.
Yeah.
The back half of the album, or like the tail end of the album with like Last Donut of the Night on it and everything, it kind of, when you know that backstory and how like the proximity it was to him passing, it kind of gives it like a double like haunting kind of feel to it, you know? It's like Last Donut of the Night, like that title in and of itself is very like, oh shit. And then it's like what, the penultimate song on the album. Yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ, man. And to, you know, Doom used like 3 of the songs off of this, whether it was on his own projects or, you know, the amount of times that songs were used or just sampled and everything off of this, it's wild. You know, I mean, there's 31 songs on it, so
Sure.
I would hope that some of it got used. But yeah, that's just, it's tough. It like like talking about it is making me sad. And I didn't know the guy. I was like 10 years old when this came out, but yeah. And you know, you mentioned it, like he toured his last tours. He was in a wheelchair in the Stones Throw documentary that I mentioned off camera. They talk about this album. They talk about J-Lib and all of that. And they have footage of him from that tour. And dude, he's wheeling out there and still like, you know, doing it. And the place is going fucking bananas. It's like I'm surprised that the building was still standing. Like people were erupting, and it's just, I'm getting fucking choked up thinking about it, man.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's so fucking cool, man.
That's really cool.
Yeah, just to see like the album, like it still gets loved to this day. It's a very frequently spun album of mine. I don't talk about it all the time, but I'm like, fuck it, throw on donuts, I'm gonna clean the house, you know?
Yep.
And yeah, it's just impeccable from start to finish.
Yeah, it's crazy that like it still gets recognized and gets so much love. And Jay Dilla, for the short span of career that he had, he like the hip hop community just really pays respect to him and really like heralds him as one of the best, if not the best, beat makers. Because he could have had so much more to give in hip hop, but from what he did up to this point, I mean, it kind of speaks for itself. Like, no one else really was in the same lane as him. Like Questlove and D'Angelo and Raphael Sadiq, like they all in that book, they all like say crazy things about him, that he was just like on a complete different spectrum of everyone else and doing his own thing, and they would like try to mimic him. Like everyone was trying to be like Dilla. Like everyone was trying to make their beats like him. Yeah, man, it's just really cool from a listener standpoint, from a fan standpoint, kind of seeing all the love, all the support that this man was getting. And for it to all revolve around this last project that has so much meaning into it. It's just heartfelt, man. It's like, it moves you in a different way. Like music always kind of has an emotion, but this is like a whole nother one. It's like, this is someone's last, you know, gift to the world. Like their last book, you know, their last work of project to have. So yeah, there's just so much that could be said about it. And so much love for it, man. I have the deepest respect for this album.
Yeah. It's really a love letter to the underground at the time. And the litany of just insanely good artists that were coming out, or not even the underground, you know, because A Tribe Called Quest at this time was huge, you know. But it's just showed how, no matter how massive an artist got at the time in hip hop, it was such a community. You know, Tribe Called Quest is on the top of the world. I guarantee you, if fucking 45% of the people that know Can I Kick It don't know who the fuck Jay Dilla is. Yeah. Like, and that's what's wild, you know, and I was just thinking about this today. You know, we talked about Acid Rap by Chance the Rapper. One of the first lines on one of his songs is, remember sitting in class the first time listening to Dilla, and it's like, I know kids that are bumping Chance the Rapper. I'm like, they don't even know who his influences are. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the fucking choir right now. But I'm like, I'm like, these guys, like, it's just, this album was generational and like really transcended. It's bigger than music, honestly. Like, it had, you listen to this and it's like, damn, I feel like I was friends with all of these guys, you know, or whatever. And it's crazy to say that about a fucking beat tape. It's just samples and drums, man.
All it is. It's all it is.
When you cut it down to brass tacks, it's very simple.
It is.
But it's
done so well that you don't even see it as that.
Yeah.
You don't. You see it as a full album, complete, start to finish.
Yeah.
And like his production too on it, like if we're speaking just on a production standpoint, is insane, man.
Oh yeah.
Like Don't Cry, there's like, it's from one song, but there's like 40 different chops that he does, like different chops that he does to string out the song, and then he drops the levels and slows it down. Like it's insane what he was doing. And like, yeah, he did a lot of it before he was in the hospital, but to finish it on that, just on a little machine by his deathbed, like, it's also an album that revolves around like themes of death in a way, like, you know, with Don't Cry, with Stop, with The Last Donut of the Night. Like, it kind of has those themes that you feel like it's like, you know, it's someone in their last legs of life. Like, it's kind of, you know, giving that message. So yeah, it's fucking nuts to think about it. Crazy to listen to. The song Bye, I thought that was really cool. That was So Far So Gone. Oh, So Far to Go, rather. They ended up putting a comment on that and D'Angelo to rap on it later down the line after this. But yeah, like, it's a beat tape that I think is, for years to come, will still like have a fucking pillar. Like, it's like,
I think it's the bar. It
is.
is the bar, man. You can't go any higher than that.
like there's just like Roman pillars on this album. Like, this album is, you know, it's such a foundation of hip hop that it's a mainstay.
Yeah. It's one of those, you know, like The Chronic or, you know, Ready to Die, All Eyes on Me, you know, like, it's one of those albums, like you said, that like, without it, hip hop doesn't progress in the way that it has.
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, man, I mean, shout out to it. I think it's what keeps Stone's Throw, like, because you'll see it if you like follow the artists that are on Stone's Throw or were, they get a resurgence every couple of years, and I think it's directly linked to the fact that Donuts is so fucking good, because I think it gets it, and then people are like, oh, Lightworks, didn't Doom use that? And then thus begins the fall down the slope.
Yep.
But yeah, I fucking love this album, man.
Yeah, great pick.
Hell yeah. Shall we top it up?
Yeah, let's. I'll go first since this is my album. Honorable mention.
It was so tough.
Yeah.
I almost wanted just to do sections because I felt like I was discrediting it, because
It's tough.
Like,
yeah.
it's like, you know, this 2-song segment is really good because it's like you just are blasting through it.
Yeah, and they're all like less than a minute long.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
So short.
honorable mention Bye. I really liked that. Common and D'Angelo were on that. And I heard it, like, I was like, oh, this is that one song. I was like, so that was nice. Number 3, The Donut of the Heart. Very heartfelt. Number 2, Lightworks. And then my favorite track that I've been coming back to a lot more recently was Two Can Win. Really was liking that one. Really good.
Hell yeah. Since you mentioned Two Can Win, and it's in my list, I'll go next. Two Can Win, honorable mention. That was another late kind of favorite for me as well. Stepson of the Clappers, my second honorable mention. Don't know why. It was nice. Everything from the title down to the song itself was just perfect for me. Number 3, I wanted to avoid this, having both of these songs in my top 3, but I couldn't. Working on It is my top 3. Just that the sample, yeah. Listen up, and that bass line is just really nice. Number 2, The Twister. Really liked that one. Another one that I was like, oh, I don't think I like ever got this into that song when I was like first listening to this. And then Lightworks, man. I mean, I discovered it backwards, because I don't think I had ever like picked up on it listening to this. And then I got really into the Doom song of the same title, and I was like, is this because
where I heard it first. I thought it was the same song, but it's not.
Yeah, as I was getting into it, I was like, is this a fucking Dilla beat? And then I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, this is on Donuts. I have this in like hanging on my wall. And so that is my top 3.
Nice. Mine's kind of a generic top 3, but I don't give a fuck. Anyways, honorable mention is You Love, like that track. Cool one. Number 3, Last Donut of the Night, just for the sentimental value there. Number 2, I like Waves, because I think that kind of had a theme to it too. Kind of, you know, waves throughout life, end of his life. And then number 1, Lightworks, because of just that flow. It's just a hopper on there.
Oh, yeah.
Get you.
So good. Hell yeah, man. I'm so glad we got to talk about this one finally. It's one that I've stared at and almost brought up a handful of times myself. Shout out Jake for bringing up J Dilla's Donuts, the last album he ever put out. And yeah, shout out. Just listen to the whole thing. It's fantastic. It doesn't feel like 31 songs. We're going to go ahead and move on to my pick for this week. It's Whatchu Spinnin, episode 79. Thanks. Heck yeah. It's time to move forward a couple of years. Not many. It's like
One. Right?
I thought it was 07.
Yeah.
It's 2010 is when it came out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, damn it, Spotify. Screw you.
Yeah, that's also what's crazy.
It does that sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know.
Maybe that's when it was released for streaming.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It was.
Does anybody know? Do you know? Tell us.
No,
if you
Tell
know.
us in the comments. Hell yeah. But I'm going with, I believe it's their 5th album, Deftones' Diamond Eyes, released in 2010. It's kind of an album in this run of them straying from, their heavier sound. It does still have some aspects of that heavier stuff, but this was the album that made me dive down into their discography this summer, and so I figured to kind of end the summer, I'd pay a little homage to that and bring up this album. And it's incredible. It's their best seller, or not best seller, highest charting album in their discography. Shout out Matt for telling me that little tidbit. But yeah, what do you guys think of it?
I like a lot of the Deftones albums that you brought up because I haven't heard a lot of them. Around the Fur is a good one. White Pony is a great one that you brought up. This one is probably my favorite.
Really?
I feel like the
yeah.
heaviness and the overall songwriting and kind of the story and the emotion behind it, because I guess they had an album already made, scrapped the whole thing and started over. Where's that album? What does that sound like? We want to know. Anyways, this album kicks ass. When I heard You've Seen the Butcher, my heart exploded.
Yeah.
Just because it's so heavy and it's got a cool kind of vocal effect on Chino. And you can just hear the music. It's got the emotional vibe. You can hear the sadness in some of the songs, some of the songwriting. And I think Chino takes that to the next level on this album more than any other one he's done that I've heard. And I loved it, man. It's fucking great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I do see that evolution of the progress of their different shift that they're going. Because, Round the Fur and, White Pony, I feel like more in your face. With this one, there's still definitely those tracks. Like Royal, kind of a heavier one towards the end of the song, and Command Control, those are a little bit more heavier, but it has, other songs like Sex Tape and like Beauty School that it's like a lot more mellow.
Yeah.
And it also feels a lot like grittier, like raw in a way, this album. Like it doesn't feel like incredibly polished. Not to say it's bad, but it doesn't feel like, it feels like it's all just like one cohesive. Like they just said, hey, we're playing right now and we're not stopping until it's over.
And then they take a
there's no
break
cuts.
from the producer they were with? Is that?
Yeah, so they had Terry Date for, who we've talked about a lot, did a bunch of stuff with Slipknot as well. He was their producer up until the album prior to this, which was Saturday Night Wrist. Bob Ezrin produced that one. He's incredible. This one was Nick, some foreign name that I'm not even going to try to pronounce. Who has done stuff with like the Smiths and stuff, which is right up their alley because they've been labeled as, or they're admittedly Cure-loving metalheads is a direct quote I found today.
Yeah, I saw that about Chino. He likes the Cure.
Yeah. So it's
maybe that's where the rawness comes in and like the less production. I'm thinking that's why I brought it up. Just thinking maybe.
Yeah, and I don't know. Yeah, so they were going in a different songwriting direction.
Yeah.
To tell the story that you alluded to earlier. So they were in the process. They had actually, like, the album is done. Like it's there. It exists somewhere. It's completely done and ready to release. It's called Eros. It was recorded in 2007. Was set to release in 2008. And then Chi Chang, the original bassist for Deftones, got into a car accident and which subsequently put him into a coma for the following 5 years, and he eventually passed away in 2013. And at the time that they did this, they didn't know that if they were going to be a band anymore. Like they're like, fucking album, what do we do? And so they they recruited Sergio Vega from Quicksand. Couldn't tell you anything about that group to fill in, and they just hit the studio. And this album, it apparently is the polar opposite of what Eros was, according to what they've said.
Interesting. Okay.
Like this one with its kind of softer energy. Eros was like aggressive as hell, apparently. Like it was kind of in line because they were starting to stray away from that. Apparently it went like backwards in the timeline past where like the self-titled album was. And yeah, there is an album. It is finished called Eros, and everybody wants to hear it. But yeah, I don't think that they will. As much as I would like to.
I was reading more about his songwriting style on this album, especially that it's more like outside of himself, not talking about himself, but more like visual storytelling and like just a visual album in general, which I thought was cool. You know, not to go down that hole of, talking about life and all the shitty problems you have, but actually just telling a story that makes sense to you or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Cool approach.
And I like that he phrased it that way. I read that same, and I was like, that's actually a very interesting way to put it. So yeah, and it is such an interesting, because going backwards, like starting with this album, then listening to the other stuff in their discography is crazy, because you kind of see where like the growth of it, and because I listened to their earlier stuff first, and then like after this they put out Koino Yokon.
I was gonna say, even that album is completely like
every album is different in its own right, and that's why I keep coming back, because you think you've heard what the album is in essence with a song, and then you go and listen to it and it's completely not that. Like what got me into this album was Sex Tape, and I was like, oh, this whole album's gonna it's like a very horny album, or whatever. And I was like, no, it's not. It's completely
not
opposite. So yeah, I think and this is really the first kind of, like I said, like the first showing of them growing like that as songwriters. So
yeah, and they also have it's very true that you guys say that, because every album kind of pinpoints a different point in the career of Deftones. Because when you hear people mention Deftones, they're like, oh, White Pony or Around the Fur. Like these albums, they're fantastic. They're great for when they came out. But have you heard their other stuff? Yeah. Like, you could pinpoint any Deftones album, and they're all different. Yeah. Like, I haven't heard that one, but I'm sure it's different, too. This and the one that they did 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So, the growth, also, the change that they have in their music is, it kind of, bands need that to grow. Bands need that to keep going, to keep making music. They can't be making the same thing over and over again.
Right. I think that's why they're touring now. They're still doing it. They still got it. People still want to see them live and perform.
And
lucky bastard.
They have another album ready.
Oh,
Gino
nice.
just has to record vocals. He said that in April of this year, that it's done instrument wise. He just has to record vocals, which means probably after this tour. Which would be sick.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. What do we got?
Another plug-in. We brought up Crosses, his other project. Go check that album out. I've been playing that all week and falling in love with that album all over again.
So. And to kind of just do a comparison, like it's kind of, because this album kind of sits almost in the middle of their discography, right? You get the heavy aspects that, like, you can tell that there's still that rawness from even like the Adrenaline days, which was super aggressive.
Another one.
But Chino kind of also like opened up with, I think it was kind of the start of this, like this album was the first big showing of this, that he like took a step back from the songwriting process, because he was very involved. Obviously he has that kind of expertise with being also, Team Sleep is another side project of his, all that
Palms,
stuff.
all that stuff.
Palms. Yeah. I mean, he's Maynard and then some as far as the amount of projects he's got.
Yeah, he is.
He just doesn't make wine, so he has two other bands.
He crafts beer instead.
Yeah, but yeah, and then you get after this, Koino Yokon. It's like crazy to think like every album of theirs has that kind of mix of both worlds, and again, that's what keeps making me come back to it. And there's some albums that you're like, okay, it's very interesting, in a sense, like sonically, and it almost, there's at times where you almost forget you're listening to a Deftones album with them, and that kind of happens at points on this. And I mean, 2010, man, was such a weird time for this genre. There was some hot dog shit coming out.
Oh yeah, you got Puddle of Mud and like
Oh
this
my god,
shitty band.
Shinedown was huge. Godsmack was big, and it's like in 2010, mind you, I will admit I
Buck
do.
Cherry. Come
Oh
on.
my god. I will admit I like some Godsmack songs and some Shinedown songs. Their best albums did not come out in 2010. I will tell you right the fuck now. So don't come at me.
And
Jim
if you like
Bros.
any of those bands, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's why I said. Hey,
I'm not
I gotta-
apologizing. I'm just sorry.
He's not apologizing for what he said. He's apologizing that you have that taste.
Just
but yeah. So to have this come out, and it's like you can kind of tell. You can kind of tell it's from 2010 because of kind of some of the aspects of it, like command control. I'm like, oh yeah, this is very 2010. But then there's stuff that like really just transcends it. Like the starting off the song Diamond Eyes is an incredible way to kick this album off, and it's like basically saying, hey bitch, it might be 2010, but we ain't playing the same game, okay? Y'all are playing checkers, we're playing chess over here, okay? And so yeah, just incredible work from these guys. I highly urge, if you liked this one, go to Koino Yokon next, and then from there go wherever. Just pick one. My trajectory was Diamond Eyes, Koi, self-titled, and then I went back and listened to Around the Fur again, and I was like, holy shit, I missed some stuff off of this. Wonderful stuff. And then yeah, from there just keep going. I have a playlist I'll send you guys that I've kind of curated.
Cool.
Kind of like I did with the Grateful Dead one. I've kind of built a Deftones one I'll send y'all.
Cool.
But hell yeah. Any closing arguments, or shall we top it up?
Top it up.
Hell yeah. Man, this one was hard. It was really, really hard. Honorable mentions for me, I'm going to go Command Control. I did like it. Just that guitar riff, like that, it's like got such a sliding kind of feel to it. I really liked it. Second honorable mention, Diamond Eyes. Just no other song could replace. Like, you can't start this album with any other song on it.
No.
Number 3 for me, late to the game. This was actually like I started being obsessed with this song this morning. Risk.
I just crossed it out and wrote it. Did you see me do that?
No. I was like, I ran some errands this morning, and I was like, I listened to Risk like twice on the
That
drive.
bass?
Yeah.
Is that what that is? Yeah.
I think so.
It's
Yeah.
The bass, yeah.
Yeah, and his vocal work on that is incredible as well. Number 2 for me, Prince, and then number 1, the song that I played while we were hanging out, Beauty School. I didn't actually say this enough. The drumming on this album is unreal. Abe Cunningham really kills it, and that's like the best production. The drums are mastered perfectly on this album. So those are my top 3s.
Nice. I found myself listening to Risk too this morning, and I'll do this like every morning of the podcast. I'll listen to all the albums like a couple of times. Risk, man, that one also snuck up on me.
Yeah,
that one snuck up on me also. So that's my honorable mention. Number 3 was Royal. I like that kind of that old school, like, hardcore, in your face Deftones. Number 2 was You've Seen the Butcher. And then my favorite was Beauty School.
Heck yeah.
Great choices. Honorable mention for me was Prince. I like that track. Kind of a hidden gem there. Number 3, it was Beauty School, but then I was like, you know what? Risk. I heard that on the way over again. I was like, man, that song is great.
Shout out Risk, man.
Shout out Risk. So honorable mention, I guess, will be Beauty School too. Number 2, Sex Tape. Kind of mellow song. Mellows the album out. Shows the creativity behind all the stuff they do. And then You've Seen the Butcher, man. That's my top track. Love that song.
Sex Tape made me buy a delay pedal.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's 2 different types of people. You either play Sweet Disposition by the Tempered Trap, or Sex Tape as soon as you get a delay pedal. And I was the latter. Anyway, that was Diamond Eyes by Deftones, released in 2010. My pick for this week. I might end up breaking my 3 album per artist rule that I've set for myself and bring up like 2 of more of their albums because they're that good. Anyway, we're going to move right on into Matt's album to wrap this bad boy up. It's Whatchu Spinnin' episode 79. Please stick around. Special announcement coming at the end of the episode, folks.
About Billy Woods.
Us just talking about Billy Woods.
Yeah.
Maybe once we meet him, we'll be like, okay, life is good. Probably not.
Well, that's the problem, is that you can only listen to so much, right?
Yeah.
It's like the Billy Woods thing's going to keep going on. The Deftones thing is still going to keep going on. Fucking, I don't know. There's probably...
He's got a good discography that's I haven't dove all the way into, but
Right.
other projects, too, that aren't just him, too.
Hell yeah. Well, it's about that time, folks. I just realized we haven't changed the picture at all this episode. We've been having too much fun.
It's too fun.
Anyway, we're going to bring up a fantastic album. Matt, why don't you tell them what we got?
Well, based on the show we're going to next Wednesday, Billy Woods, we brought up his album from 2022 called Aethiopes.
Incredible.
Kind of hard to see the cover there with the glare. I've not spun this. I've thought about it, but still fetches a pretty penny sealed. So we're going to leave it the way it is.
He almost did last night, too.
Matt, hold him down.
Hold it down. I think Billy's on point lyrically, as always. And I think this is a close runner-up to Maps for me. They're so close to being released. One was 2022, the Maps 2023. Maps is probably still my favorite, but I enjoyed the slowed down approach. Wharves kind of sets off the tone. And then tracks like No Hard Feelings, Christine just set the vibe. And I think lyrically he's doing his thing again, kind of bringing his life into the story and sharing emotions that he's felt and gone through and the life that he's seen. And it's really strong lyrically. I think that was my favorite part. The beats are cool. The features are even better. And it's just got a good vibe to it. It's short and sweet. What was it? 31 or not 31 minutes? 39 minutes.
Yeah.
So pretty short and sweet, but it's Billy Woods doing his thing and showing his craft off and the way that he does. And if you have not listened to this artist, this is a good album to start with. So what do you guys think?
Oh my God.
That's a silly question. Did you guys like this album?
I remember when this came out, because we had like just finished up the Arm & Hammer.
That's right.
Bringing
it was
up,
like right then, huh?
yeah, we had like just finished up bringing up that album, and then like shortly after I saw this come out, and the first listen I was like, this is weird. I was like, these are strange ass beats. Like you hear the beat on No Hard Feelings, like that weird like Scottish like whatever horn. I'm like, what the fuck is
Can't
this?
smoke that here, mister.
Yeah, I was like, this is some weird abstract shit. And then I'm like, wait, this is actually some good shit. And I look back, try to buy the vinyl, sold out. Of course it did. Yeah. But like, it's Billy Woods, man. It's Billy Woods being himself. This album, Preservation produced it, the whole thing, which I thought was really cool because his album, Eastern Medicine, Western
He's good too,
something.
man. He's got some
yeah,
good
that
stuff.
album's really good. That album has like Makami, Arm & Hammer, Quelly Chris, like a bunch of artists. But his production on this is real interesting, real interesting. And I think it's cool seeing Billy Wood. It's kind of like he's challenging himself to like go out there with different producers and see how his raps, how his like, storytelling, how he makes it. Like how creative can he be with it? Because there's so much layers when it comes to Billy Woods. Like there's so much background to it, and I was kind of looking into it. The album title, Aethiopes, I guess that's like it's like an older like European word for African Americans. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
fucking this motherfucker, he's doing it again.
He's done it again. In Aubergine, yeah, all that stuff. This, I don't know how to say this so hear me out. Hold on, sorry. Let me restart. I was trying to remember what Matt said at the end, because he said like you would start with this one, and I was like, for me, I felt like this is probably a harder one to get into based off of the production alone.
Okay.
If you want to, I think I agree with you. If you want to see how insane of a lyricist Billy Woods is, start with this one, because the production, and this is where I'm coming from. Maps has a lot of like Soft Landing,
Rapper
Weed, even Babylon by Bus, FaceTime, all these songs on it
Those
that
are
are
all,
that
accessible,
accessible and everything.
produced well, all that, yeah.
And these are produced well, but it's like two of the most experimental people just going at it, and it's insane it's a really good listen, but it's like man, there's some crazy stuff going on at times.
Yeah.
What song? Harlem, the beat switch on
Yeah.
Harlem, with
Yeah.
just the crazy piano. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, it like jarred me. I was like, what the fuck is going on, man? I was like, and so that these beats, like, you know, it's kind of weird because you kind of get lost in either one, you know?
Yeah.
You're not coming to this album to listen to like a good, or like not even a good, you know, a bump.
Yeah, not at all.
Something that has
no,
like
no.
a defined
This is
rhythm
an
to it.
acquired taste album. This is like
Yeah.
underground.
Yeah, it's an Eno. It's like
Yeah, it's like an Eno
Yeah.
Eno-esque album.
Yeah.
it's a rap album for Eno heads. Is
Yeah,
essentially
right.
what
Yeah.
it is.
Right.
Drumless hip hop.
Yeah.
And it's done, but it's executed so well. That all of that being said, I'm not trying to say that to take away from it. I think it's it needs to be highlighted, you know, and said that like, yo, these guys are experimental as all get out. We know that about Billy Woods. I don't know anything about Preservation. I was like, dude, this guy's fucking. This guy's crazy. And, you know, like I've been getting into, you know, like Aethiopes Twin and stuff like that. So I'm like into that weird kind of quirky beat stuff right now. Like I made us rewind one of your records last night because I was like, listen to this weird beat placement, dude. And so I was just eating this shit up, like Savage and like Warbs and
Oh
like
my
all of these
God.
weird ass
Yeah.
instrumentals. I was like, dude, this is almost like a weird Aethiopes Twin ambient album at times. Like
Yeah,
if it-
using those bells as a beat. That's like,
Yeah.
damn, dude.
yeah, it's very very interesting. It's an acquired taste, but goddamn, is it just like they just knock it out of the park and executed everything so
There's some
well.
cool movie samples too from some old movies. I don't know what they were, but just like random, like,
Yeah,
and they fit well. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't just random, like, oh, this is gonna fill the song, but like fit everything all together, tied
They
it
got
together.
weird ass beats too. Like how, like he, like it sounds like how do you make these sounds? Like it sounds like he's getting a fork to a chalkboard and making that into a beat. Like
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Uh-huh.
yeah,
But like I get what you're saying about like it can be more. You could get into it more because you probably recognize a lot more names on this. You know, you have LP on here with Heavy Water. You also have 9X that has you know, Elucid, Savage that has Boldy James.
it ain't Boldy.
So yeah, you kind of have a little bit more of a,
Got a Juggernaut
you know,
feature in there.
different people. Yeah, you got Breeze
Breeze.
Bruin. So yeah, like it's you know, they had some pretty cool features on it, but it's definitely out there for as far as production goes. It's definitely out there, but lyrically, Billy Woods, he's always just at the top of his game. He's always just fucking, you know, doing his own thing, and it's kind of cool seeing the reviews on this, and like different people's standpoint on it. Just it's always a good listen. Not only on the music, but reading what they're saying, reading their points of view, and it's like, oh shit, like it's still very introspective, still kind of talking about day and age things and history and you know, black exploitation and a bunch of these other different things that Billy Wood is known for doing. Kind of just spinning it to a different beat, putting it on a different, you know, different label. So it's real interesting, and I really like that about Billy Woods, that he's very specific with how he's doing, like with what he's doing. He's very on T. That's the message.
He's very
going
deliberate in
for.
his delivery for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, good. I knew we'd all like it. I mean, I
Yeah.
mean, we can talk all we want about Billy Woods and kiss his ass, kiss your ass, kiss his ass.
Happy Hanukkah.
Yeah.
No, sorry, what were you?
I was just gonna say, I think us being able to see him live with Arm & Hammer and then going to see him live with him and Kenny Siegler is going to be two different shows in a sense, and I think it'll be cool to see both avenues of him just doing his thing by himself on stage.
There was a guy that was standing next to me when we saw Arm & Hammer, and we got to talking about it because he was like, hey, like, you know, just waiting for the show, and he's asked me, he's like, have you ever seen any of these guys or Arm & Hammer? And I said, no, this is my first time, and, you know, kind of like soft plug the podcast basically. I was like, no, I was like, I'm huge into Arm & Hammer. I was like, I love both of them, but I've been getting into Billy Wood's solo stuff. He had just seen Billy and Kenny for the Maps tour like 4 months prior or whatever.
Nice.
And he was like, he told me, he's like, dude, I told her, he said that, and I was like, oh fuck, I'm pissed I missed that. He's like, you should be. He's like, because it was fucking insane. Like, apparently it's like, and that's why I'm so stoked that it's at the same venue, because just thinking about that gives me goosebumps. Like the Arm & Hammer show that we went to gives me goosebumps because I'm like, oh shit, like it was so intimate and like stripped down and everything. And yeah, he kind of alluded to the fact that like seeing Billy and Kenny just do their thing is a completely different animal than
Because
watching.
Kenny's got his own skills in his own right.
Oh, yeah.
Watching him do his own thing and maybe having his own solos, which I've seen on YouTube, him just kind of doing his own weird computer stuff.
Yeah. And I'm kind of wondering how they're going to, like set list wise, like what they're going to do and see if he like plays anything off of maps because Kenny's going to be
I
there.
hope it's more than
I
just
hope so.
hiding, because I think it's going to be mostly hiding places. But
Yeah.
if he can go all over the place, that would be nice.
Right. We didn't get soft landing at the Arm & Hammer show, and I
You
need
get
that.
soft landing, get rapper weed, get a bunch of
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, dude.
I bet he plays Rapper Weed. I feel like that's one he could play.
Yeah. I'm trying to even remember what ones he did play off of maps. He did FaceTime, which
Yeah.
was awesome. But yeah, back to this one.
Yes. Anyway, sorry.
Sorry,
We're a little excited.
Way ahead of ourselves.
daydreaming about
Yeah.
the trip.
Good album, fun listen. Like you said, production's a little hit and miss, but lyrically, it's on point.
Yeah. Or not hit and miss per se. It's just
It's different.
it's a thinking man's
Yeah,
album. Like it's not for
Yeah.
like to put it into perspective, right? I said when we were talking about donuts earlier today that I show like my non hip hop friends that album, you know, be like, hey, you like here's something that even you would enjoy, and I would not do the same thing with this. Like this is for
This one's heavy.
This is for
It's
close
like a
people,
sipper.
yeah.
It's like a sipper. Like you take it in slowly.
Yeah.
Like there's an acquired.
I know
taste
I
to
did.
this.
I'd known about it forever and didn't really dive into it or even buy it until I heard a few tracks and kind of got into it. And was like, all right,
Yeah.
there's more than one song in here I do dig. So
right. And I think I was kind of the same way. Like because you know Boldy James is on Savage, I had listened to that song and like basically that was it. And then listening to like I had to keep coming back to it to be like, there's no way this is actually what's going on, right? Like,
Right.
This is the whole. You're telling me this is the whole fucking album.
yeah, I think starting the album off with Asylum does do that to somebody. Like
Yeah.
you're just like, what is this, a hip hop album? What is this?
Right.
Yeah.
And like that video, speaking of Asylum, that's why I sent you guys that video because I had seen it and I was like, this really shows the fucking duality of Billy Woods. Right here is like Asylum and then Soft Landing.
Yeah.
And you'd like the fact
Yeah.
that he just played those two songs, I'm like, all right.
That's really cool.
That's really the yin and the yang of him. And I think this album, it is, you know, kind of like we were talking about Jay Dilla, like that was very personal. I think this is kind of in the same vein for Billy Woods,
Yeah.
you know, like he's not feeding into, you know, like an Alchemist beat or a Kenny Siegel beat. And not to say that that's like beneath him or whatever,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
It's just, like I said, I think he's such a creative and so experimental between the ears, and so he found preservation to do an album. And he's like, let's just be fucking weirdos, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just turn down all the lights and just be weird. And they came out with this, and yeah, the lyricism on it is it's at times some of his best. I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think this album, it's still kind of a little fresh to some of the
yeah.
like Billy Wood fans and Arm & Hammer fans or underground, whatever you want to call it. But give it some time, and I think with most things, especially anything Billy Woods related, like more time equals more, you know, it lets it, you know, ferment a little bit
There you
more.
go.
People get into it a little bit more,
It's
and
gonna
then they're
age
like,
well. Yeah.
this is actually a phenomenal album.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's all I can say. That's all I will say.
Let's do it.
You want to top three it?
I got her.
Cool.
The song we were just mentioning, Asylum, probably my honorable mention, just because it's weird and you're just like not sure what you're listening to. But once you get past that, kind of gets flowing. Number 3, Heavy Water, like that track, a little bit different. Number 2, Christine, and then I like Wharves is my favorite track. It's one of the first I heard off this album, and the second bar or the second set of lyrics he does on the album are just probably some of his best. You know,
Yeah.
I just holy fuck.
Yeah. It's so it is like, and it takes, that's why you have to like come back to it a couple of
Yeah.
times to really hear what he's saying, because you're so thrown off by the beats at first.
Yeah.
And once you're like, oh no, this is actually like, that's the whole thing. Then you can really dive into that lyricism
Yeah.
and you're like, oh my God. Like the hook to No Hard Feelings and everything. It's just like,
Yeah.
it's like, God damn. Okay. I'll go next. My honorable mention, Savage. Just, you know, love Boldy James, and shout out Jacob for getting me both into both Arm & Hammer and Boldy James at the same time. So that was like a chef's kiss for me. Dorian 4 years ago would have exploded. fresh at OCCU, Dorian would have had an aneurysm.
Yeah.
9X is my second one. Quelle Chris and Elucid. And Quelle Chris on an Arm & Hammer track is always good. And I like when Billy Woods or Elucid has the other one on like a solo song, because it's not an Arm & Hammer track. Like, there's a significant difference between one of those collaborations and an Arm & Hammer song. And I don't know why I feel that way, but I love it. And hearing the beats on this, I'm so... Because I love Elucid on a fucking weird beat. That's why I love We Buy Diabetic Test Strips.
And this was a weird beat.
Yeah. And
killed it.
Yeah. And murdered. I was like, absolutely, thank you.
Yes.
So shout out to 9X. Number 3 for me is Warbs. Same thing. I think it was like Savage and that song were kind of my first 2 introductions. Number 2 for me is Heavy Water. Great LP feature. I love how much he pops up in this realm.
Yeah.
Like, and because you would think it would be Killer Mike, but it's like, no, LP's a producer. Like he just gets it in a different way.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I just love that he's associated.
He's
with
tuned in. Yeah.
And I just love that he's associated with Billy and Elucid and all those guys. And then number 1 for me was Remorseless. And that was like this week that song really started growing on me. Just like big, kind of a little bit more of a refined beat, I feel like, on the album, but it's still got like this big like aggressive, like a little bit of aggression to it that I really liked.
Good picks.
I'm gonna pronounce the fuck out of this terribly wrong.
Proto-Evangelium?
Yeah. Thank you.
You always pronounce for us. Thank you.
Yeah. How did that? What the fuck? Are we just like
I was like, because
our one brain cell just.
I literally had to stare at it to make sure I was like spelling it properly.
Yeah, our both brain cells just high-fived each other. That's honorable mention. Shinehead, whoever that is, keep doing your thing. The underground is looking at you.
It's like a slur for bald people.
Yeah. Chrome Dome.
Damn Shineheads. Sorry.
Number 3, Asylum. Great intro to the album. Very strange.
Yes.
If you listen to this, if that's the first song you're hearing off of this, you press play on the album, you're gonna be weirded out. But stick around to the end of that track. You hear a little bit of drums in it. It's good.
Yeah.
Number 2, Savage. Love that Boldy James is on it. That was originally the first song I heard off of this album, I think. And then my favorite track, definitely 9X.
Heck yeah.
Love it. Same thing. I love it when Elucid is on a Billy Woods track, Billy Woods on an Elucid track. Also, Quelle Chris. Like, I like when they all just come in together like fucking the superheroes, and they're like just combining all to one track. It's amazing.
And that trumpet is it a trumpet on Asylum?
I think.
Never told the truth in your life?
Yeah.
Don't start now.
And that's what I love. That's what I love about Billy Woods is he has these like very chantable one-liners at times in his songs. Like, careful what you ask for, you just might get it. I fucking was high as hell last night and wrote it on the back of my notebook in Sharpie. Just this, like, his one-liners that, the whole crowd starts chanting him and he's live. Like,
we did. I know we did. Yeah.
Yeah, when he did Houthi.
Get it.
Yeah.
Dude,
that song,
goosebumps.
yeah, dude.
But yeah, so that, ever told the truth in your life? Like, again, just fantastic work. Shout out Billy Woods, shout out Preservation, and everybody that hopped on this album. This album being Aethiopes by Billy Woods, released in 2022. It's time for everybody's favorite part, to let you know what's coming up next. Stick around. It's Whatchu Spinnin' episode 79. Aethiop. Hell yeah, fellas. It's that time. And this has been episode 79. And last week, we kind of did we had a little mind meld afterward and said, what if we did a quick turnaround on a themed ep for episode 80? And it came down to 2 things. Albums from Japan or by Japanese artists, or soundtracks. 2 that we had flirted with for quite some time. And Matt said soundtracks, and I said Yeah, actually,
I said yeah.
It was one of those things. Like as soon as somebody made a decision, I was like, yeah, actually, that's the only option. Like last night when you're like, here's 3 albums, because he was just digging through, and he's like either Europe '72, Seas of Cheese, or Crosses, and I was like, out of those 3, which one would you want? And he's like, Primus, and I was like, yeah, I mean that's the only option at this point, actually. Now that we mention it.
Right.
And so, yeah, we did soundtracks, and we're super stoked to talk about these soundtracks. We got to go in the order that we talked about, though. So, Jake, you're up first, my man.
Yeah, I do own mine. I just didn't bring it because a little sleepy still this morning. Didn't have my coffee. But I will be showing it next podcast. But it is Daft Punk's 2010 album, Tron Legacy. The soundtrack
nice.
to the Tron movie.
Cool.
Nice.
Oh my God, I fucking love that.
I do not own mine. I don't know if I ever will. I at least won't be buying it off Discogs because it's. I'm pretty sure the term is blacklisted from being sold on there. It literally has a disclaimer when you like. It has a listing.
This cannot be sold.
Yeah, it has a listing, but it says like this album is not allowed to be sold on Discogs Marketplace. And that soundtrack is the soundtrack for the video game Jet Set Radio Future, released in 2002 for the original Xbox, an old Sega game, sequel to Jet Set Radio. Machine Girl got their start by doing Jet Set Radio remixes, and I'm going with their like the next game soundtrack, but with a caveat. It's specific. It's because they did a lot of like found music, like curated like a really good playlist of like found music. This is what their in-house producer created, is the one I'm going with. His name's Hideki Naganuma. It's on Spotify. I'll send it to you guys.
Okay.
But
Found it.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So.
Yep.
And then it's probably way down there, 2002.
No, it's.
Well, I did find also. I think is it one of these?
It's that one.
Sick.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Jet Set Radio Future original soundtrack by Sega. So
cool.
That'll be sick.
Nice.
Matt, what you got?
We're going back to 1969. Pink Floyd did a soundtrack from a movie called More. The movie's a throwaway movie about people doing heroin, so not really a great movie. I've never seen it, but the songs on here need to be heard if you're a Pink Floyd fan. There's a couple instrumentals, some vocals from both Waters and Gilmour, and if you're a Floyd fan, you'll be a fan of this album. Guaranteed.
Hell yeah.
Whoa.
Awesome.
Yep.
More. I knew because you've talked to me about More.
That's the perfect intro to the movie. I don't know what it is about, but I want to see it now.
Yeah. You've told me about this soundtrack. You're like, because you've like watched me get into Pink Floyd basically, and you're like, you should check out More. It's a soundtrack that they did. I don't think you've ever told me shit about the movie.
Yeah,
even that tidbit. That's amazing. I almost want to see it.
Right. I'm sure it's a terrible movie, but
It's a throwaway movie about people.
But the songs they did on this album are pretty cool. I don't know why they never released them on any other albums they did, but probably copyright and stuff. But
hell yeah. Pink Floyd's More from 1969, Jet Set Radio Future from 2002, and Tron from, what was that, 2012 you said?
2010, yeah.
2010. Whew.
damn.
Doggy. That's going to be
fun.
some damn good soundtracks. If only I had an OG Xbox. Now I want to play some Jet Set Radio Future. But anyway, this has been episode 79 of Whatchu Spinnin. Thanks for sticking around. We talked about some great stuff, some good hip-hop, some good alternative metal. I'm your host, Dorian. That's Matt, and that's Jake. Go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram at Whatchu Spinnin. Like, subscribe everywhere you find podcasts. YouTube, Spotify, Apple. RSS feeds are a wondrous thing. Please just tell people about our show. We love music, and we love you guys for sticking around and watching it. Yeah, get ready. Seasons are about to change, and we've got a lot of concert coverage coming at you next time, and some great talks about some great pieces of work with these soundtracks. Anyway, it's Whatchu Spinnin' episode 79. Take it easy, y'all.